Hello, everyone. Today I'm looking at Battlefield 6. Yes, there are six of these now. And, well, there's honestly more of them, but they've just not shied away from the numbers. The number just keeps going up. They haven't even changed it to Roman numerals. But yeah, Battlefield 6. How do I feel about this one? It's funny. Ever since getting Game Pass and being able to swap very quickly between a lot of Battlefield games from Bad Company to 3 to 4 to 2042. 6 feels it's okay. I'm just gonna say it right there. It's an okay Battlefield game. There are some things about it that it does very uh, better or does better than its predecessors, and there are some other things that it seems to be lacking in a weird sense. So first of all, I think the thing that struck me the most was the movement. It feels very, I don't know. I mean, you're decently fast, but it feels a little bit clunky in a weird way. And I'm really comparing this to 2042, which, just full disclosure, I love that game. My favorite Battlefields are 2042 and Bad Company 2. Those are my two favorite ones. Very different, actually, when I think about it. 2042 has it's very fluid, it's very fast. What I also like about the UI is it's very vibrant and saturated, lots of different colors, futuristic weapons, and a lot of experimental stuff like the railgun, which is really cool. And Bad Company 2, it's very slow, very methodical. It has a certain way about it, lots of distractible cover. And so, what I saw from the gameplay from 6 is that it's somewhere in between the speed of 2042 and Bad Company 2. I'd say it's more reminiscent of Battlefield 4 in a lot of ways. Also, the whole tone of the game. You can tell that they really listen to their fans, which is both a good and a bad thing. It's good because they're really taking fan feedback and they're giving what the people want. It's a bad thing though because it's usually a sign of creative decay. Usually, when a developer is asking for input from its players, it really means that they're creatively bankrupt. You saw this with things like even Mega Man Legends 3, where they're even to the point of saying, "Hey, do you want to make our game for us?" It's kind of funny in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's a very much return to form. We're boots on the ground, uh, brown and gray shooter. It looks very different, or it looks like it's trying to capture the brown gray shooter mid 2000s era, and I'm sure it doesn't even look like those games, but it's kind of recapturing what we thought those games looked like. So it's definitely trying to cash in on the nostalgia factor. And you know what? I'll give credit to DICE here because they kind of realized they messed up with Battlefield 5 in a lot of ways, and I'm not going to go through that entire marketing campaign. And it basically came down to the point where their lead marketing guys said, "If you don't like it, then don't buy it." And people canceled their pre-orders. I think a quarter of them, and that was not a good time for Battlefield. So this is a really nice, at least a political PR format that they're saying, okay, guys, this game is for the players. This game is for our core audience. We're not doing any funny business. We're not doing anything weird. This is Battlefield as a Battlefield game, and they're trying to regain some of that customer trust, which is again more of a social thing outside of the game itself, but it's still, I think, a factor to consider. So in terms of basic gameplay, nothing really much has changed. You still have the classics Conquest and Rush. You have back to basics with class loadouts. They are not doing, pretty surprising honestly, they're not doing, at least yet, any sort of specialists. And the whole point of the specialist is that you play as a certain character within a class subgroup. And the whole point of that is that character, you buy them, they microtransactions. They have a certain ability, and you have to sometimes unlock that character or unlock costumes for that character. And it was a way to kind of have scummy business practices that we've kind of become used to at this point. But there are no specialists. It's all basic classes, which is assault, engineer, medic, and sniper. And they all work perfectly fine. I think in the beta, I mean, I was only able to play for a little bit, right? So I wasn't able to unlock a lot of weapons, but from what I got, the vibe between the assault rifle and the submachine gun, they were very, very similar. I'm sure as when the game comes out, there'll be a lot more variety. But my biggest issue with at least games like Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is that, ironically enough, that game was future focused and all the weapons felt the same, from the machine guns to the submachine guns to the LMG to the assault rifles. And ironically, when I think about the future focused game 2042, there's a lot more variety in terms of weapons. They all feel very different and creative and experimental and very, very cool. In this game, though, at least they feel a little bit similar. But yeah, the one thing I do personally kind of have a gripe with, simply because uh, my special place is the sniper class. I felt that the sniper in this game, just from the movement, the kind of movement and the dynamics, how the game works, it wasn't quite there. And it was a bit sluggish, a bit slow, it was a bit hard to get off headshots. I mean, I got some, but I don't know, just the overall vibe I'm getting from this game. Because, and you really do have to go by vibes, I feel, with these kinds of games, because these are massive multiplayer online shooters, is that they just consume your life if you're really into them. And you kind of have to just check it out and vibe it out and say, is this something I really want to get into? And in the game of, Game Pass and online subscriptions, it's no longer really a monetary question. It's really a time consumption question. Do I want this game to be my main thing? And for myself, 2042, that was my main thing for almost, I guess, 3 years now. It was the one game where I said, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm tired, I know my shooter game is there. And I played the crap out of that up until a few months ago, when I finally unlocked all the attachments, all the unlocks for all the weapons. I said, okay, this is basically done. I can play for fun if I want to, kind of. Not that it wasn't fun unlocking all the weapons. But for 6, yeah, and again, like, my experience with 2042 is, like, I didn't expect to like that game, because I heard it had a terrible launch, and I just went into it and it was surprisingly amazing. With 6, what I'm seeing here with the beta, it's very flashy, it looks very good. One thing I should mention is the destructibility. I kind of, again, didn't really get to experiment too much, but I saw that a lot of the buildings, the walls and whatever, they would just have so much debris, and there was so much dynamic destruction going on. Like, it looked amazing. It actually looked like an E3 trailer. It was like high quality, high def. Things were flying and blowing up and going all over the place. And it reminds me of one game, I think it's the Finals, or yeah, it was the Finals. I think there's another game similar to that, where they have very destructible environments, and it kind of is more arcadey in its style, where you have a lot of like money and coins and cartoony things going on, but just the dynamic array of particle effects and just the way the environment is reacting to destruction, it just looks really, really cool. And this is something we've always kind of been promised since maybe 8th gen, but it's kind of at the end of 9th gen we're finally getting what's been advertised finally. Just these crazy arrays where you shoot an RPG into a wall, or a grenade, you have a tank, you go over a wall, and just debris goes flying everywhere. And it looks and feels really cool. That being said, does that actually have mechanical implications? And what I mean by that is, do the buildings actually collapse and kill the players around them? From what I saw, not so much, but again, this is just my beta impressions. Who knows, maybe they'll patch it in later, but I think it'd be really interesting to just be able to bulldoze an entire city. Even with Bad Company 2, you were still able to destroy quite a few of the buildings in the environment, but at the end of the day, even if you took out all the walls in certain buildings, they just wouldn't collapse no matter what. I guess in 2042 we had the same kind of issue. In fact, it was not a big issue, but I think it was a big step back in destructibility, and everyone kind of says that, and I fully agree with them. In 2042, yes, you could take off walls, you could blow up lots of walls and lots of whatever, and there wouldn't be a lot of debris, and a lot of those buildings would not collapse. It was actually kind of disappointing and antithetical to the Battlefield philosophy, but the core gameplay and the hit markers, the swapping of weapons, the attachments, the UI, everything, the sound effects in 2042, I think were just so good that I really didn't think about that at all. I just was able to excuse it. Here, that's really not the case. It's kind of like a nice to have, but if they don't have it, I'm not really going to kill it. And the core gun gameplay, again, it feels very, how do I say this, realistic, not in the best way. You know, everything feels kind of same. All the environments and the UI and the texture of the game looks kind of the same. You know, modern games struggle with this issue of visual clarity, where now that you can model and graphic and texture everything, even the things that aren't important in the game environment, you lose clarity as to what's important. I'm thinking even Bad Company, where even the colors of the roofs, the colors of the doors, the simplicity of the environments was just in this very nice sweet spot. And we just started to get more and more and more, and just really bloated, I think is the word I'd use. So 6, again, I really had fun playing it during the beta time, you know, playing it for those couple days. But, you know, is it something that I'd really get into? I decided no. And I decided that very quickly early on in the first like game or 2 games, where it felt good, but it didn't feel good, you know? And that's just kind of a disappointing thing. In terms of other things, they really haven't innovated, which is the kind of point with this game. They've gone back to basics. So even things like the spawn system, now they have a little like live feed of where you're spawning in. Spawning in on your teammates feels a lot faster, a lot easier. You don't have this thing where you just kind of have to like swoop in. You just kind of pop in and you're right there. I think I will say the biggest innovation to this game, though, is the what do you call it? The revive system. So in the old games, if you were in a squad or you were medic, you could just use the defibrillator and do someone. And that works basically the same. But what's new at this point is that, I think it's mainly with squads, is that you can actually grab the guy and pull him. So as you're reviving him, you can pull him out of the line of fire. And I gotta admit, it actually feels really cool. It's a very fun mechanic that really builds a lot of camaraderie, because you can really feel like you're saving your teammates, rather than the classic Battlefield formula where you just end up running into the middle of like an open plain firefight for a sniper waiting for you, and your guy can't communicate to you to tell you there's a sniper there, and you just end up getting killed without looking or checking the environment. And I got pretty good at that by the end of 2042, where it's like, I knew if my guy's down, there has to be at least one enemy or 2 in that environment, and I'm comfortable with letting him bleed out to the last second just to make sure it's clear to get him up safely. Rather than hear people just kind of rush in. But now with that added mechanic where you can actually pull them, like, I'll give them credit. It feels and looks, and it feels as good as it looks. It actually feels better than it looks, to be honest. It's a lot of fun. Aside from that, again, like the scopes, the guns, I mean, there's nothing really new here we haven't seen. Everything kind of looks like Call of Duty, but I wouldn't say it plays like it. COD is just such a, how do I say, very twitchy, fast-paced, relentless, ruthless game where you have 0 health on basically everything, and there's no revives, no pickups, no whatever, no coordination, just how many twitchy kill streaks you can get. And I think a lot of people were expecting from how this game looks to be like that, and that's really not the case. It still feels very much like Battlefield. I'd say a lot like Battlefield 4, if anything. The weapons feel more or less the same. I think what really was lacking is just shooting at an enemy and getting those hit markers and having that kill confirmed. It's good, but I felt like 2042 actually did it better. And so I felt like, again, they're just trying to please their fans. They're going back to what works. They're going back to 3 and 4. They're not even looking at 2042. They're just trying to make a good, solid game with no specialists, just normal classes. Something I even forgot is the results screen. In 2042, you have very nice visual clarity on people's what is it, their little backgrounds, their tags. It has nice, colorful, visuals to say, who got the most kill streaks or the most longest, sniper shot and things like that. And I find that in the the victory finale screen for this game, it was just very visually difficult to figure out exactly who did what, because everything is the same color except for your main markers, enemies, allies, and your reticle, basically. But everything else in the environment in the game just looks so similar. It's really hard to get any visual clarity. And the other big thing, again, that I felt I really did not enjoy about this game, and again, they can fix this definitely. It's very easy to fix, I think, later on in development, are the maps. And I was talking to someone else about this, about the different battlefields and how they feel, and how a really big component of what makes a good and bad Battlefield game are the maps. For example, I think Bad Company 2 has the best maps in the series, and that's just one of the reasons why it is so beloved. It has a good natural flow. And the maps here are, well, they're not terrible, but they're very mid. They're very just middle of the road. They're not super engaging, and a lot of them are just very claustrophobic, and again, realistic. They're very realistic. Oh yeah, this would be a real battle in a real city. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, but it doesn't feel like really Battlefield. At least from the few days I played, I did not get any maps that had big open fields and tanks rolling around and helicopters. It was maybe one or two tanks and very CQC, low low contact, low claustrophobia focused maps where it's very much door to door style maps. So I don't know if that's an indication of what the game's going to launch with, because they feel more like Call of Duty maps, honestly, than they do Battlefield maps. I mean, they're big enough, but they're not an arena map for certain. But they do feel small enough to the extent where it's kind of choking the Battlefield experience. It doesn't really feel, it does not feel good, these maps. And they remind me of the worst maps in 2042, where it's just, again, a claustrophobic city, which is not built for Battlefield. Anyway, so, maybe they'll release different maps, and these are just really to test things and make sure that everything's runs smoothly and whatever. But yeah, the maps, I think, are a really big component of this type of game, and it just really wasn't quite there. So I hope they either make new ones or change it or whatever, or introduce old maps. I mean, that's the easiest thing to do, just patch in old maps if you can. For example, the Swedish map in 2042, I forget what it's called, but it's my favorite one, with the rolling hills and the two giant tech combination centers. Like, that map in itself isn't only engaging from a gameplay standpoint, but visually it's very memorable. It has a certain style. It's very distinct. It was called Spearhead. It's very distinct. Also, the Canadian Rocky Mountains level, that's very, very distinct. It's a very specifically 2042 map where it's focused on grappling hooks and a lot of verticality. It's a kind of map that you think, oh, that doesn't just exist in only Battlefield, but only in Battlefield 2042. And so far, what I got from Battlefield 6 is that it has its identity in safeness and no identity. This is, again, going back to a different time and recapturing what people remembered it being as, rather than actually doing something new. So that's the good and bad of it. At the end of the day, is it fun? Yeah, it's fun. Is it so fun that I'd invest the next, part of my life as my go-to shooter? No, I don't think so. And there's been a lot of hype around this game. It's kind of like, hey, this is a return to form. Battlefield is back. They kind of blew their chances, I feel, with 2042. And it was only one of those weird slow burn things when people realized after they had patched the games once or twice that it worked and was actually really good and was kind of surprising. And the only people who actually were hyped and knew about it are the people who took the time to actually play it. While this game is kind of the opposite. It has a lot of marketing around it, but I just don't feel it's that great. It looks like the game that everyone wants to play, but it's not, it's just not quite there. It's like the difference between being a 6 and an 8. It's fine, but it's not amazing. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I mean, if you've played any previous Battlefield game, you know what pretty much to expect from this, except that it has a more mid 2000s video game ish feel to it, while still playing like Battlefield. So it's middle of the road. It's okay. It's fine. But I had the same experience when I played Battlefield 4. Like, this is okay. It's Battlefield, but it doesn't feel new or innovative or fresh or good enough that it invokes me sinking my time into it. But it was fun for what I had with it. Anyway, that's all I got to say at this point. And yeah, that's pretty much Battlefield 6. Anyway, guys, I will see you later. Bye.